Hi guys, in this video we'll be having a look at functions and positional arguments and keyword arguments to callables. So guys, function is a block of code that we can use to define repeated set of functionality that we need to call again and again. So having repeatable code in your script is not a very good practice. So instead, you should take the repeatable piece of code and wrap it up in a function. And by that way, you can make your code look cleaner and more closer to industry best practices. Along with that, you can define a function in various ways. You can uh, define a function with no arguments whatsoever. Arguments basically meaning the inputs that your function needs in order to carry out certain functionality. Or you can call a function with one positional argument, or you can define a function with one positional argument, right? And you can also have multiple positional arguments as well. In other programming languages, you typically need to define the type of the arguments that you'll need to supply. But in Python, you typically don't do that. You can specify the types, but they are not necessary. The only reason why you would specify types is for someone else to interpret your code easier, that you're passing an integer or you're passing a list or tuple or whatever it is. Also, you can have multiple arguments. You can call a function with many positional arguments. Then a keyword argument, you can call a function with one keyword argument. And typically, guys, you see star kwargs or keyword arguments. That means that you can specify multiple key value pairs while calling your function. So this is an example where you are calling a function with two keyword arguments, or you can have many keyword arguments. And typically, how the flow of the function calling goes is that you will have the default or the user defined arguments first of all, and then you would have keyword arguments. So typically, you would either, if you have the opportunity to go through an API or through an SDK, you'll see star args. Star args means multiple positional arguments which are supposed to be passed first, and then keyword arguments, which are key value pairs which occur in the aftermath of all these positional arguments. And obviously, in order to call a particular method, uh, with respect to an object, we'll see what a class and object is. And so object is basically a container that has multiple classes, methods, instances that are defined. And you just need to call method for calling that particular function associated with the class definition or with the object definition. When using positional arguments, you must provide them in the order that the function has defined them, that is, which is present in the function signature. So a function signature basically has the def keyword followed by function name. Along with that, you have whatever arguments you have defined. Maybe you're using a string and a list. So you'll have intuitive names. It is always good to use intuitive names while defining your functions. And on the other hand, when you're using keyword arguments, you can provide the arguments you want in any order whatsoever. Since they are key value pairs, their order does not strictly matter. And another thing which I have told you, when using positional and keyword arguments, see these positional arguments are coming first, then followed by keyword arguments, right? So defining a simple function, uh, this simple function, it does nothing, it just prints out the elements. Guys, here you can see that I have defined default values for these two arguments. That means if I were to choose not to supply the values of B and C, it would default to 2 and 3, right? So I can either call the function by providing all of these values, or I can also just use this simply providing the value of A, and it will infer the rest of the values by using these default assignments, right? And we can have a function with no argument whatsoever, depending upon the use case. So nothing, no argument is present, and yeah, we just print no argument is present, right? Or we can use this sample function, or we can invoke this function by providing a single argument, providing the value of a. This value of 10 will be passed to this function, and a will become 10, and rest of the values will take on their default values as defined in the function signature. Because this particular line is the function signature, right? And next, we can also call with two positional arguments. So here I have passed two values. So A takes on the value of 10, B takes on the value of 20, and since I haven't supplied any third argument whatsoever, C still defaults to 3, right? And of course, I can pass in all the values of A, B, and C within my function to override them and use them howsoever I want. Here I'm just printing. So these are, this particular output is what you will see upon execution. See, this A equals 10, B equals 20, and C equals to 30, right? Then I can pass in the value of uh, 5 by specifying that A equals to 5, right? And this also you can use, but more intuitive way to call a function is to just simply pass the argument and take care of the order of the arguments in which you have defined. Also, you can have multiple key value pairs like this. So these are what? These are key value pairs. So key being A, and it being having the value of 7, and B being 15, or C being 25. So you are calling with two keyword arguments with required positional A. You can also call with many keyword arguments, right? So here I have defined multiple uh, keyword arguments. And on the other hand, you can pass in one positional argument. So see, this value of 10 will be assigned to A. And then I have a key value pair. I'm passing this keyword argument C equals to 50. So this value of C will be assigned to 50, right? And here is a simple definition of class. So a class is nothing but a blueprint of an object with uh, uniform methods that are defined within its scope, right? So your class will typically be containing methods which are belonging to the same family of functions or same group of functions. And here I've simply defined one method within the class. So typically, whenever you define a class, you need to pass this self argument to it, or a self reference to this. This self is not explicitly invoked in the function, but the self rather specifies the object or the instantiation of your class that you will create, right? And I have another default argument, name equals to world, and simply I'm printing a hello world, right? Now, if I don't pass any arguments whatsoever, I have defined a class. See, this is how you define a class. You write the class name followed by parenthesis, a pair of parentheses, and you've defined a class. If you do not pass any arguments and you invoke this method greet with respect to this object, you'll simply get the default value of hello world. On the other hand, if you pass in the value of Ashutosh, right, then this will say hello Ashutosh, right? And on the other hand, you can pass in pass it in the form of a keyword argument that you're specifying that the value of name equals to friend. And it'll say hello friend, right? So guys, I'm pretty confident that you understood the difference between positional argument and keyword arguments. And yeah, so you do need to practice it more in order to get a more clear-cut understanding. And I'll see you in the next video.